Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Female Disruptors second annual virtual summit. And we are on one of my personal favorite tracks. F is for feminist, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have a great talk lined up for you, Deleting Ageism. Let's talk about the future of work. And I've got the wonderful Debra Albert with me today. Her story is real and deep. She's going to talk about what ageism is, get real clear about it, break through the clutter, and help us stop making nonsense of this and talk about how ageism's just bad business in the workplace. She is the world's longest running Lean In Circle leader, as well as the leader of the Lean In Network in New York City. Debra, we're thrilled to have you with us today, and I'm very much excited to hear you talk about ageism. I think a lot of people, when we talk about ageism, we think we have a very specific picture in our minds. I tend to think of like the movie The Intern with Robert De Niro. You know, you've got that out of place person. But I think it's really interesting that ageism is a larger spectrum than that. So I'm very excited to hear what you have to say, and I'm going to pass the torch to you and you can take it from here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Jessica. And for anyone who hasn't seen the movie The Intern, go watch it because it absolutely speaks volumes about this issue and how it's just really nonsense in any event. I am passionate about mitigating ageism in the workplace. It's not that I ever experienced ageism at work, because for 17 years, I was co-owner of a global corporate training firm. And before that, I wasn't so old. So it's just such a widespread problem of society with so many different areas of impact. I'm talking to you today because I hope that you'll learn something here that you can do to stop the nonsense and just delete ageism. But first, I'd like to ask you to put into the chat, at what age do you think that most people start to experience ageism in the workplace? Just throw out whatever numbers you think. I bet you'll be surprised. AARP and Pew Research have done studies to show that ageism in the workplace generally starts at age 40. And in some industries, it's as young as 36. Can you imagine? You're 43. People think you're old, out of touch, and nobody will hire you. It's incredulous, right? But we're all living longer, healthier, more vibrant lives. For the most part, a lot of people in this country can't afford not to work and can't afford a decent retirement. This is one of the major issues that everyone understands about ageism. There's several studies to show that 60% of Americans cannot afford a $400 emergency expense, like putting new tires on their car. So if people are being edged out of work because of ageism, or they're unable to get back into the workforce after an absence, this is especially true for women who are basically 75% of the caregivers in most families around the world. That is a huge problem, and it's not just economical. I want to put us all on the same page and make sure we all understand exactly what ageism is. It is three things. It refers to stereotypes, how we think, the prejudice, how we feel, and the discrimination, how we act towards others or even ourselves based on age. It's everywhere. It's in our institutions, our relationships with other people, in the workplace, and even in the policies that support healthcare. You may not be aware, but in the early days of COVID, when ventilators were scarce, Johns Hopkins put out an internal mandate that no one over 60 could get a ventilator. That's a fact. My nephew was a doctor there, so he knows. There's different types of ageism. Generalized ageism shows up in all kinds of behaviors, with the most common one being when the younger people assume that older people don't know anything about technology. And I'm going to show you an example of that right now.
Welcome to Basketacular.
One who needs to get up here.
So can you use the tablet and just spell out your email just for feedback? Your generation probably doesn't know how to use the tablet, so I'm just going to get you a pad of paper.
Know what I do for a living? I'm a programmer. I know.
Oh my God.
I have long shot.
Welcome to Basketacular.
So
One who needs to get up here.
that's a pretty good illustration, yeah? And I have plenty more of those. Other types of ageism, reverse ageism. These are practices that limit younger people's opportunities for promotion or even to contribute to decision-making in the workplace. And a lot of people don't think about this, but ageism shows up very often in our own self-limiting behaviors, self-directed ageism or internalized ageism. It's an internal bias and the belief that you shouldn't or couldn't do something just based on your own age, like I'm too old to start a new career or start my own business. Or a young person may think, I'm too young, they won't take me seriously. This internalized ageism damages individual self-worth and limits us unnecessarily. And it makes me mad. And then there's gendered ageism or lookism, which is especially prevalent for women, right? We're all supposed to look a certain way. And if we don't look that way, we don't get, or we can lose our jobs. Remember the story about a year ago, I think, about Lisa LaFlame. She was a celebrated Canadian news anchor for 35 years who was fired because she let her hair go gray. A little ridiculous. Let's talk about some of the signs of ageism, especially with ageist language. There's a lot of unconscious and hidden bias that comes out when using certain language, especially in recruiting and job descriptions. For example, when you say you want someone who's fresh out of school or no more than 5 years experience, older workers interpret that as they don't want me or I'm too old. When they use words like energetic, highly enthusiastic, digital native, easily adapts, these are all words and phrases that send a message that insinuates that older people are tired, boring, and stuck in their own ways. But that's not so true these days. Pay attention to this stuff, okay? Because whether you own your own business, you're a manager in a company, you're aspiring to get into leadership, or you're looking for a new role, this is going to affect you one way or the other. I put together a couple of slides looking at some of the guidelines for how we can change the language that we use about age. So we don't do it, rather we do it with inclusivity and respect. You're going to get these and a few other resources that you can use after the summit. The bottom line is, it's best not to refer to age in any way, but if it's relevant, use general phrases that don't refer to a specific individual. It's perfectly okay to refer to age in an aggregate way, like adults over 60 or the 50+ market. Another thing to consider and where ageism shows up and how we portray our company is visually. Including age diverse photos, graphics, content on a company's website, and in your marketing materials, show that your company is committed to an age diverse workforce. And hear me, there's a lot of good business rationale for doing just that. I'll talk more about that later. Also, think about how we talk to people in the stories we tell. Awareness of age starts between the ages of 4 and 7. So our unconscious bias is deeply rooted. How many of you have ever said to a coworker or a friend, this old guy was taking forever to order a simple ice cream? Or how about telling your spouse the story about how some old lady was driving so slowly you wanted to scream? Who cares about the age of the person who was driving badly? Be careful. These are the subtle signs of ageism that show up in our daily lives. Take the time to know what to look for, because it's not always obvious. And if you want to affect change and be a part of the solution, you have to pay attention. I want to talk a little bit about some of the myths of ageism, because there are a lot of them, especially about hiring older workers. For example, the silent generation, those who are 75 and above, there's this belief that they never want to rock the boat. They respect authority, don't want to cause any problems. And yet there are plenty of people in that generation that have done things that would belie that myth, like Wangari Maathai, the first African woman to win a Nobel Peace Prize in 2004 at the age of 64. She worked in a sustainable development that resulted in something called the Green Belt movement, which mobilized the planting of over 30 million trees across Africa. That's a big deal at age 64. And if you look at somebody like Gloria Steinem, she was born in 1934. and continues to this day to be a huge voice for feminism and equal rights. So it isn't true that when people are older, they're just done, right? Another very important myth, especially in the business world, is that older workers cost more money than younger workers. And that is just absolutely not true. Age-diverse teams are often more productive, improve organizational performance on a whole lot of metrics, and help to reduce general employee turnover. And we have this perception that we think people of a certain age, what they can do, what they can't do, what they can be, what they can't be. It's like all stereotypes. Ageism is informed by negative and typically inaccurate assumptions and beliefs about aging and ability, even though today's older people are healthier and more vibrant than in previous years. And I'm going to show you a little video that absolutely illustrates this fact in an absolutely perfect way.
Hey, how's it going? You can stand right there. That's your mark. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Great.
Awesome.
Just tell us your first name and your age.
My real age?
My name is Paolo. I'm 25 years old.
My name is Daniela, and I'm 19.
24, 35.
31, 33,
I'm 26 years old.
What age do you consider to be old?
Late 40s.
maybe 50.
I feel like 30s and new 20s, so I'd say like 40 is old.
I'd probably say 50s.
I'd like you to show me how an old person would cross the street. Show me how an old person would send a text message. How might an old person do a push-up? What about jumping jacks? Okay, hang on. There's someone I want you to meet.
Hello, I'm Birch. I'm 66.
Hi, I'm Daphne, and I'm 68. I'm Dee, and I'm 55.
George Fassbinder, 75.
My name's Parvati. I'm 70.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We're gonna give you about 2 minutes to teach each other something that you are good at.
I can teach you a jump that I do.
Okay, please.
Both of your legs go up, and your arm goes up, and your left arm goes like to the side. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Lift 1, 2, 3. And bring it to your heart. And bring it to your heart. Add the head in. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get your balance.
And knees up.
Now, you bring your legs and your feet up. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So when you come out of a turn, either way, you go back to that basics.
Over. Now forward. Over. Yeah.
Square it like this, and give me a hook. Hook, jab, cross, hook, and then we'll go like this, all right?
1, 2, 3.
Now, what age might you consider to be old?
Probably 80 or 90. He could just do everything that I told him to do. An age that I would consider to be old now might be 100.
Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I said in the 50s, I thought that would be old. But when I thought about it, like...
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
How do you do it?
It really changed my thinking of what old is.
You've taught me something today. Clearly, there's no way she's old, you know?
Now I know from today, hey, I don't look at age.
At my age, I feel like I did when I was in my 20s.
There's so many things that I still want to do. There's so many things that I can do. As long as I'm growing and learning, then age doesn't matter.
When people start stopping, that's when they start getting old.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
Stephanie.
you. It was great meeting you.
How long have you been doing this? Is this a new skill?
40 years.
Pretty incredible, right? I mean, it really speaks volumes about myths of ageism. I want to talk about some realities of ageism. Health. There's a lot of statistics about how experiencing ageism has impacted not just our emotional state and our finances, but it also has a huge impact on our health, on our longevity, and in general, our overall well-being. They say that ageism is associated with earlier death by 7.5 years, poor physical health, and even slower recovery from disabilities that come with older age. And mental health, according to the World Health Organization, around 6.3 million cases of depression globally are thought to be attributed to ageism. 1 in every $7 spent in healthcare every year for the 8 most expensive conditions like diabetes and heart disease is correlated with ageism. So in the US, that's $63 billion in total. So if all these people are being discriminated against and not able to maintain their jobs or get jobs, that's having a huge impact on our whole society. They're predicting greater health risks to younger generations because if so many of our 40 and 50 plus people can't work and provide for themselves, then their kids are going to have to take care of us. And they're predicting specifically a greater risk of heart attack and stroke due to the stress of these people having to take care of us and for such a long time, since we're all living in general longer. Ageism shows up in many ways. It shows up in hiring, firing, layoffs, compensation, benefits, promotions, who we're inviting to certain meetings, and even who we're inviting to happy hour to hang out. The first thing is to recognize and then get rid of these stereotypes because they're not just limiting, they're also inaccurate, as you just saw. Think about it. How many of you will be working when the alphas, that's after Gen Z, are of hiring age? You think you'll want to be considered old hat in just 15 years and kind of pushed out of your business? I don't think so. Let's talk about the impact in terms of cost to businesses. AARP research shows that there's an enormous cost to workplace ageism and bias. In the US economy, check this out, we lost $850 billion in GDP in 2018. As the population and workforce continuously gets older, they say that number could climb to 3.9 trillion by 2050. That's a lot. That's a lot of loss. Other costs in terms of specifically to a company involve onboarding expenses, opportunity costs, because it always takes time for new hires to have a real impact in their roles. And with the Great Resignation, especially because of COVID, many people who are retiring or leaving have left a large gap in knowledge transfer, a large drain of skills for an organization. You can't replace that with all of that lost knowledge and experience with a group of young people who are just entering the workforce. And on top of that, when you look globally, birth rates are falling. So there's actually less people being born now who will be able to enter the workforce in the next 20 years. And quite frankly, I don't know about you, but I would like to have more people working so that they all can contribute to the Social Security pool. I want to give you a case study, an example of cost of ageism to a business. This is a real conversation that I had with someone about a month ago. She said that her sister was a big executive at one of the big fashion houses. I think it was Louis Vuitton. She worked there for 20 years as the head of marketing. Under her tutelage, the business had grown by some very large percentage. I don't remember the exact number, but it was really substantial. A year ago, they let her go. And I believe that her boss actually said to her, we need someone younger. We need someone who has more of a younger social presence. So I asked this person I was talking to, wait, why is it that a marketing person who's behind the scenes making decisions about how to market handbags and leather goods needs to have a social presence? Apparently, she was told that's just what everybody wants nowadays. Well, in the last year, just the last year, that company has experienced, or that division, I should say, has experienced a huge loss of revenue. She got a lot of calls from all sorts of people in the company from various areas, all asking her to come back. She said no. She was 52. I don't mean to say that it's not good to hire young people, not at all. There's definitely a positive aspect of hiring younger people, especially since by and large, they have great technical skills, which are so coveted, but they don't possess a lot of social skills, excuse me, like collaboration, experience management of different cohorts, leadership, customer support, all the things that life experience really adds to what you can deliver in the workplace. And here's something you might not be thinking about: the general overall cost to society. Did you know that people 50 plus contributed? Well, you probably didn't know. If anybody did know this, I'd be really surprised unless you were researching all this stuff as I do. 50 people 50 plus contributed $8 trillion on direct spend, while Gen Z contributed about a quarter of that. So think about it. If people 50 plus are forced to stop working, in a sense, think of those consequences: loss of disposable income to cities and towns. And there's all sorts of data about older people moving away from expensive cities to stretch their dollar. That doesn't help a city's tax base, and it sure doesn't help the city's politicians to get more votes when people are leaving their districts. There's an elephant in the room, which I always like to address, and that is skill gaps. Because yeah, there are, for sure. In the next 5 years, the top skills and skill groups, which employers say is rising in most importance, and yet there's a real dearth, it's not digital skills. It's critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, self-management, active listening, lifelong learning, resilience, team building, collaboration, and other words that we use to call soft skills. These are the skills of the best leaders. And this is what company executives are saying is missing most. Yet, in an average large-sized company, 40% of all their workers will require some sort of reskilling of at least 6 months. Yet 94% of business leaders say that they expect employees to pick up the new skills on the job. They confirmed that they're reluctant to hire someone who's over 45, and they routinely, why am I having trouble saying this word? Routinely discard resumes based on too many years of experience. The rise of the side gig and hustle culture, virtual shops, accessible marketplaces, Gen Zers and millennials are especially disrupting the industries that they work in and finding their place in the entrepreneurial world. And I'm sure many of you in this audience are taking part in the entrepreneurial world as well. So this is also contributing to a large gap in talent in our already established companies. I'm not trying to make it sound like we should only hire people over 40. As I keep saying, it's important to have diversity of all age groups. There are a lot of people talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and corporate social responsibility. But in fact, when it comes to ageism, that's the one protected class that isn't really well protected. People are not doing as much as they could. Only 8% of companies have diversity hiring practices in place. And what's happening is that nearly 80% of older employees say they've experienced age discrimination at work. And in general, 94% of adults 50 to 80 are reported to experience some form of ageism daily. Daily. Yet there's a huge benefit to hiring older workers. Here's a data point for you. Lots of studies show that a mixed age workforce results in, listen carefully, 36% more productivity and increases innovation by 28%. Let me repeat that. 36% more productivity and innovation increase by 28%. It's also been scientifically shown that age does not correlate with ability, intellectual function, creativity, interest, or overall performance. And I'm going to show you one more thing very quickly.
Deborah, we got about like 2 minutes left, and then we just want to leave any
Oh,
time
no.
to answer questions.
Wow, I guess I spoke a little slower than I usually do. You may or may not have seen this picture of this woman. Her name is Tal Portion Lynch. She actually passed away very recently, I think within the last year, at the age of 103. This is a picture of her when she was 86. She was the
Wow.
oldest living yoga teacher in the world. And I don't know about anybody who's watching. I can't do anything like that. And I'm only 62. So there's a lot to be said about not having these biases. And I will go ahead and stop and answer any questions. I wish I had a little
Deborah,
more time to finish, but
I know. No, that was so informative, and you went through so many important key points. And I think what you're talking about today is so important in the grand conversation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's something that I think we need to get comfortable discussing. I
yeah.
think most recently it's just been kind of nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to, especially for women. You're not supposed to ask a woman what her age is. You're not supposed to discuss those things. So talking about the issues that come along with that has been kind of almost taboo amongst ourselves. So I think it's really important for us to get comfortable. I think the information you shared today is super valuable. And I know that we've got female disruptors here of all age groups who've probably all experienced at some point in their careers, in their lives, in their personal lives, ageism. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and for doing what you do and for being a female disruptor. We're so grateful that you're here today and that you've been able to share that with us.
I really appreciate it because it's so important, because the bottom line is everybody of all age, if they're lucky, they're going to get old.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll make sure to share everything with the group after the conference, and also share links to those videos, because I think those were really interesting to watch. I'd like to go back and rewatch them. So,
and if anyone wants the list of resources and actual bullet points of solutions that you can do, there's a form that you will receive from the summit. Just send me an email and you will get it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Debra, for being here today. And everyone else, will see you at the next track. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.